and most of the games that I tested work really well at 4x resolution. Even one of my favorite racing games of all time, Gran Turismo 4, it just felt really smooth on this and it looked great on this Neo screen.
You know, I'm just realizing how good this actually looks on PlayStation 2. It almost would look like an early PS3 game. Like, they really did great visually with this game. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Duplays here. We're back with some more YouTube reactions. PS3, Wii U, and PS2 on the MacBook Neo. That's the new budget MacBook Apple released. Without any further ado, let's get
This
into
is
it.
the new MacBook Neo. It's powered by the same CPU that was in the iPhone 16, and in this video, we're going to be testing a bunch of emulation on this device. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's ET.
So, as he just said, it's an iPhone chip that they put in this MacBook. It's like 500 USD, and it uses the A18 Pro, the same chip in the iPhone 16. I think I just said that, but it's surprisingly fast. It's even faster than the initial M1 chip, which was actually kind of shocking to me. But anyway,
Hey,
let's
Prime
let it
back here
continue.
again. Recently, I got my hands on a MacBook Neo, and I've already posted one video showing off some PC gaming on this device. So far, I'm pretty impressed here, especially given the price. Coming in with the base model at $599, and that's exactly what I have here, or student pricing at
Yeah, 600,
$499.
my bad. Yeah, so student pricing 500, 600 for the regular price. I don't know how they determine the student price though, but if you could get that deal,
That
I
the
would
price is
definitely
on the
go for
rise
it.
for all electronics, I do think that this is a pretty decent deal for somebody wanting to get into the Mac ecosystem, but it's definitely not for everybody. With all that aside, what I wanted to do with this video was test out some emulation. I've had a lot of people asking since I posted my original video showing off PC gaming here. And yeah, this will run Cyberpunk 2077. It's pretty crazy for what we've got.
That's so crazy to me. That was the very first game that came in my mind. Pause. That popped up in my mind because it got the Mac port. I think last year it was, and it's crazy to think that that chip actually has the capability. At low settings, obviously it's a phone chip, but it can run Cyberpunk 2077. And I actually watched a preview video of it too. It was running at like 60 FPS on lowest settings, which is still pretty good. That's even better than the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck itself maxes out at 40, I believe. So I've tested it. I just lock it to 30 now and play with the Steam Deck settings, so it's fine. And then another thing to before I continue the video, it's using an iPhone chip. That means the iPhone 16 can run Cyberpunk. But I guess for thermal reasons, although I don't think this has a fan, but it probably has it has more surface area to distribute the heat around the metal chassis. But it's crazy to think the phone can run it. But I mean, we saw Death Stranding on iPhone, and that Assassin's Creed game. I think it was Infinity or Odyssey. I might have that wrong. I don't remember the name, but Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think it was. Let me double check. Yes, it was Mirage. That was right. All right, anyway, back to this.
Very light laptop. They claim up to 16 hours of battery life out of this thing, and I could definitely see it because it's powered by the same CPU that was in the iPhone 16. So it's an Apple A18 Pro chip. It's a 6-core CPU, 5-core GPU, 8 gigs of unified RAM, which is definitely a letdown, but given the price here and RAM prices going up to 16.
Yeah, this is my biggest gripe. I don't think I want to buy another LCD device. I think going forward, I want to use OLED. My phone, I have a 12 Pro Max still. That's OLED. My Steam Deck is OLED. Every other device I own, though, like the gaming laptop I'm recording on, my TV in my room, my old tablet, they're all LCD. I want to just transition to OLED now. So I guess I would be forced to buy a Pro. I'm a power user myself. I need to record, edit, um, software development, that type of thing. So I would need the extra horsepower of a Pro model MacBook. So yeah, and the 8 gigs of RAM is not doing it justice either. But I mean, it's pretty cheap and it's a great entry, and I'm sure it performs stellar on most
It would have been
things.
real hard to keep it at this price for anybody on the market right now. It's got a 13-inch LCD display with a resolution of 2408 by 1506, only up to 60 Hz. We also have Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.3. And when it comes to emulation, this thing is really surprising. So starting off here, when it comes to Mac emulation, if I'm going for the low end stuff, I use an application known as OpenEMU. I showed this off a few times on the channel over the past few years. Really nice for a Mac setup, super easy to use. Basically drag and drop your games. It'll automatically download the core you need when you start the game up, and it'll download artwork. But my favorite thing here is the controller mapping section. So if we go up to our settings and bring that up, it'll actually give us an image of the original controller, and from there we can click on the corresponding button and then map it to the controller we have connected to our Mac.
Alright, quick interjection, this looks pretty good. He just said drag and drop the ROMs in and it'll download the art. Pretty great. I wonder if it has EmuDeck. I wonder if EmuDeck has a Mac version. Does it? I think it's just Windows and Linux. Let me check. Yeah, there's no Mac version, and they're working on an Android version as well. Okay, so OpenEMU. Let me see what that's like. You know, I think I need to add Tears of the Kingdom, I should say, to my laptop, because oh, this is only for Mac OS. Okay. Okay, well, anyway, back to this. But I love the presentation, and you can just drag and drop the ROMs, and everything's just so organized. You have different tabs for save state, screenshots, homebrew, and everything is just neatly categorized
this part
here.
might not matter to a lot of people, but I do love the UI here. Really nice that they put the time in to do this. It supports a ton of different systems, even up to GameCube and PSP, but with Mac, I usually use the standalone for those. But this is just super easy to get into. And when it comes to the performance of the MacBook Neo, for all of these older emulators,
Those should be nothing short of flawless, though the Game Boy is a potato. So, even if you are on like a 2011 computer, it should run flawless, much less on a MacBook with a fast
you're gonna
mobile
have
chip.
a great time with it. You can even do some upscaling here.
Yes.
So just checking out a few of my favorites. I've got some Mega Drive, otherwise known as Sega Genesis in the United States. Favorite game of all time, Altered Beast. Yeah, this works really well. There's also shaders built in, so you can add scan lines and everything like that. It's not as complex as something like RetroArch, and you could definitely use RetroArch on your Mac if you wanted to. But this just makes it so easy to drag and drop your games.
This looks
And
like
64,
PS1.
Really great emulation here. You
Oh,
can
never
choose
mind,
different
my bad.
cores, and I do love the upscalers they have, especially for these older systems. I think N64 looks beautiful on this display here. Going even further back, you want to do some GBA, even some DS, some NES, some SNES, Neo Geo. This system is going to handle it just fine. What I wanted to really test here was high-end emulation. So let's move over there now. The first thing we're testing here is some GameCube and Wii using the Dolphin emulator. And with the Dolphin emulator, it's been on Mac for a while, so it does fully support the metal backend here.
Hold on, I need to check something. I want to see the teraflop performance of the A18 Pro. And I did Google it a couple days ago, but I forgot. I believe it's like 2 point something. 2.29 teraflops. That's a lot better than the deck. The deck is 1.6. It's a decent margin. A18 Pro versus Steam Deck. I don't know why I'm Googling that, like I don't know it's more powerful. It offers higher peak power, blah blah blah. Steam Deck excels in sustained performance due to cooling. Okay, I'm going on a tangent here. Back to this.
And what I mean by that is on Mac, we've got another renderer that we can use. So for instance, if we were running on Windows, we could choose software, which isn't going to get us far with emulation. We can choose OpenGL or Vulkan. With this, we have Metal, Vulkan, and OpenGL. And the emulators that do support Metal work amazingly. 4x resolution, even with Rogue Squadron, running at 60 FPS. I mean, it felt really nice here. I also tested some Wii emulation with the Dolphin emulator. We're still at 4x resolution, metal backend, and really when it comes down to it on the MacBook Neo, as long as the game's compatible with the Dolphin emulator, you really shouldn't have an issue running it. There may be a couple harder to emulate games that are compatible. You might need to drop down to 3x, but even then, that's still up to 1080p, so we're still upscaling there. And I had a good feeling that GameCube was going to work pretty decently here. The emulator's been on the market for a while, and the developers are awesome over there, so I figured we'd have a good time on the Neo. Checking out some PSP emulation using PPSSPP.
Just a quick interjection again. Everything up to PS3 should be flawless. In fact, given how powerful these chips are, I imagine even PS3 should be pretty good. Not flawless, but pretty good. Especially considering that the RPCS3 team has been going ham with the updates. Every time I launch that program on my Steam Deck, there's an update every single time.
5x resolution Vulkan back in, and I was really hoping this would support metal, but unfortunately it doesn't right now. But I do believe that with the introduction of the Neo, developers can get their hands on it much easier, therefore optimizing for this little chip. And metal could come to these emulators that don't have it sooner than later with something like this, because obviously MacBook Air is like the cheapest, and I think it starts at like $1,000, maybe $899. With this starting at $599 or $499 for students, it's just a lot more accessible. But even something like Ghost of Sparta here runs amazingly on this setup at 5x. Taking it up just a bit more to PS2,
PlayStation 2.
SX2. And with this game here, Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, there is sections where it'll drop down to 30. So it's a 60 and 30 kind of variable. So you'll see it swap between 30 and 60. That's just how the game's set up. And I believe there's mods out there to allow you to do this at 60 all throughout. But the PC SX2 emulator does support the metal backend. And most of the games that I tested work really well at 4x resolution. Even one of my favorite racing games of all time, Gran Turismo 4, it just felt really smooth on this, and it looked great on this Neo screen.
You know, I'm just realizing how good this actually looks on PlayStation 2. It almost would look like an early PS3 game. Like, they really did great visually with this game.
Not the highest resolution display on the market, but it will get you by. It would be nice if they added a 120 hertz panel, but again, that'll bring the cost up, and they wanted to keep this as cheap as possible. But I did run into a couple issues with God of War 2 at a higher resolution. It just wasn't sticking at 60. We were sitting around 50 FPS at 4x, and even dropping it down to 2x didn't do much. So I added a little bit of frame skip just to make it feel a little smoother. But there are some graphical glitches going on with this metal back end.
Yeah, I can see it on the what do you call the statue again? The Roads of Colossus or something like that?
In the background, you can see that his skin is kind of shimmering here. So there is something weird going on with this game and the A18 Pro chip. I also wanted to test out some Wii U, and I was really surprised by this. This is Bayonetta 2.
This is Bayonetta?
Wii U emulator.
Yeah.
Native resolution, Vulkan backend. We got a couple dips here and there, but we're really steady at 60 with it. It's better than I thought it would be with this game. Now, there are easier to emulate Wii U games, but it's really hard to show off first-party stuff here on YouTube. So I'll give
because the Nintendo ninjas will come after you. I get why. I
What I
understand.
tested here, I went through with 3 other games. But just seeing how Bayonetta 2 runs, of course, it's not perfect, but it's real close, and it's just amazing what this thing is doing. But checking out the other games, for Kart 8, 60 FPS with a few dips here or there. There was a couple times coming around the corner where it kind of fell on its face, but then, jump right back up. And by the way, I'm in game mode with all of this. The other two on the list here can either run at 30 or 60 with this emulator. Only 30 FPS is really going to be...
Wait, hold on. I just realized something. Does Wii U use discs? Yeah, because I know it doesn't use cartridges, yeah.
usable here on this chipset. So it's pretty impressive that this thing can run the Wii U given that it's got an iPhone chip, but the most impressive thing that I tested was actually PS3 emulation, and it's definitely not going to run the harder to emulate games. I'll show you that by the end. But here's RPCS3 at 720p with the Vulkan backend. Tekken 6 runs great. Now loading the shader pipeline does take a little while up front, so when I started the game, your character limbs are going to be missing. Let it sit for a little while until it loads everything up, but as soon as it caches that, it'll load it in as you start the game up. So this one's really playable on the MacBook Neo. Another one I got decent performance out of was Ninja Gaiden Sigma. I was kind of expecting this to not run very well, but we're at 60 FPS. Couple of hiccups here and there, but overall, I mean, I wouldn't mind playing it.
I feel like the M3 and up chips would just fly through these emulators.
And the main thing here with this chip is just compiling the shaders the first time. Once that's done, everything kind of smooths out. But if you're into emulation, you know that there are games for PS3 that are just harder to emulate than others, like Skate 3. This one loves extra cores and threads, and we just don't have a lot here. We've only got 6 cores. So I tried everything with this game to get it to run better than it is right here, but unfortunately it's just not playable. Even taking the resolution way down where you can hardly tell what's going on screen, we're still only getting around 30 FPS there, and then it's just not worth playing because everything's so jumbled up. Now, do I think that a game like this will be playable in the future on this chip? Personally, I don't think so, but there are PS3 games that actually run really well on this thing right now. Emulation on this thing's been pretty impressive, and there's a few emulators here that I really wanted to try out, but they kept crashing, and I'm not exactly sure if it's a newer version of Mac OS that's not allowing them to boot, like Vita 3K for some PS Vita emulation. And I was able to get into one game, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but then it crashed out on me as soon as we started the match. So yeah, there's some issues there with some of the emulators. I'm not sure if it's a newer operating system update that's not allowing it to work, but I will be keeping an eye on updates for other high-end emulators that may work on this device. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you're interested in checking out some PC gaming on the MacBook Neo, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Like always, thanks for watching.
All right, let me browse the comments real quick, see what they're saying. The good news, Apple is already using desktop operating systems on mobile processors. Valve hopes to change the mobile gaming experience with Steam Frame. The dream that some crazy Chinese manufacturer copies them both and releases a hybrid device with dual booting Android/Linux or even Windows running on a mobile SoC. That almost feels like the Steam Frame itself, though. Because it's not dual boot, but you could, because it's an ARM chip. You could have Android on there. How you would handle input is a different thing, because it's not a touchscreen, it's a VR headset. But it's an ARM CPU, so it can run Android. And I imagine a lot of people will be modding it to do so when it releases. I would love to see how that works. Man, and to think iPhones could run emulators like this if only Apple would allow JIT, that's just-in-time compilation for anybody that doesn't know. I've tested it too and I can't emulate because of it. But it's fine, I don't need it no more because I have my laptop and I have this guy. Alright, so what else? Second iteration is going to be great. Imagine when it gets 512GB default storage. Yup. I believe they might make one next year with the A19 Pro, and I believe that has 12 gigs of RAM, so you might see a 12 gig of RAM MacBook Neo in the future. So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Emulation on the MacBook Neo. Hope y'all enjoyed. Comment, like, share, subscribe, turn on post notifications, follow my socials in the description, and I will see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.